I just felt that her whole story arc really just wasn't needed. What's up, guys? I just want to give you my quick thoughts on the whole season of the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. As a whole, the series was okay, but it could have been so much better. And basically, in my honest opinion, if the whole show would have been just based on Obi-Wan and Vader, that would have made the show 10 times better. Because every time they were on screen together, it was dramatic. It was, fun to watch. Especially in the season finale, when Vader and Obi-Wan fought, that was a real good fight. But the thing is, they spent so much time focused on other characters, like, with the new character, Reva, which honestly, I didn't think her character needed to be there. Like I said, if this show just focused on Obi-Wan and Vader, that would have made this show awesome. But because half the show was based on all this other stuff, like, dealing with Reva and dealing with Princess Leia as a kid, that part of the story just really wasn't necessary, in my honest opinion. Now, when it comes to the episodes, episode 1 was okay. I like seeing how Obi-Wan was, basically he cut himself off from the Force, just stopped using the Force at all, and you could tell that he was traumatized, with everything that happened in Revenge of the Sith. At that time he thought that Anakin Skywalker was dead. He didn't even know that he was alive. And he just seemed, Obi-Wan just seemed like a broken shell of his former self. He just looked like he was really traumatized. And then when he found out that Anakin was alive, and then you could just see the shock and fear in them. Now, during the show, they kept hinting at, Qui-Gon's Force Ghost. And looking at all these episodes, I was like, when is Qui-Gon going to show up? And he finally shows up at the very end. And they only gave him like 2 or 3 lines to say, and that was it. But I was just thankful that he finally showed up, because I was getting kind of worried that they weren't going to show him. So, at least I'm thankful that, even though he was only on screen for 10 to 15 seconds, but that's better than nothing. Now, I'm going to just go over what I liked about the show and what I didn't like. The things that I liked, seeing Obi-Wan's trauma with him dealing with, especially with him just knowing that Vader is alive and seeing the fear that was in him and how he was struggling with that. And also seeing Vader's perspective on things. You can tell that he wants revenge on Obi-Wan, that he wants payback. He was defeated, and he wanted to defeat his former master. It was great seeing Hayden Christensen make a comeback after being away from Star Wars for a long time. Especially when they showed the flashback scenes, which was in episode 5, I think, when they showed a flashback of Anakin and Obi-Wan sparring with each other. That was a great scene that showed, one of Anakin's weaknesses. Um, Having James Earl Jones back doing the voice of Darth Vader, that was a plus, because his voice is iconic, Ewan McGregor did a great job as always. He is Obi-Wan. He plays that character well. Um, and just the conflict between Obi-Wan and Vader, when they first meet up again, seeing the fear that Obi-Wan was going through, and how Vader just dominated that first fight. I mean, it wasn't even close. Obi-Wan barely survived that fight. And then to see them fight again in the finale where Obi-Wan, I was actually surprised. This is probably the most powerful I've seen Obi-Wan look when it comes to using the Force, because the way he threw Vader into the rocks and then was throwing huge rocks at Vader, that was very impressive. Because normally we're used to seeing stuff like that from, Vader or other Sith, but to see Obi-Wan do that, it was nice to see. What else did I like? Like I said, Qui-Gon returning at the end, that was a plus, because I've been looking for him throughout the whole show. I wish they would have used him more. I was hoping they would have showed him, maybe not in the first episode, but maybe episode 3 or 4. But, I was just thankful that they, finally put him in there. Now for the things I didn't like. As a whole, you could tell that this show didn't have a big budget. I mean, you can kind of see it with the special effects and, how certain sets look kind of cheap. There was a lot of things that logically didn't make sense in this show. Just to give you an example, there was a chase scene where these kidnappers were trying to kidnap Princess Leia. Now, this girl, who's supposed to be, I think, 10 years old, but she looks like she's younger than 10. Why is it that fully grown men can't catch a little girl? That just logically didn't make sense to me. And there were just times when people just made bad decisions on during the show, doing things that were just illogical, that didn't make sense. Now with the character Reva, I felt that it's not the actress's fault. I feel that the writers just didn't give that actress much to work with, and she just did the best she could with what she was given. And honestly, I just felt that her whole story arc really just wasn't needed. That actually could have been a whole separate show, and let this show just focus on Obi-Wan and Vader, and her storyline could have been a whole separate show. And if it would have been given to better writers, that could have been a really good show. But unfortunately, they decided to just combine that storyline with Obi-Wan's storyline, and it really wasn't needed. So overall, the show wasn't bad. It was okay. But what really helped out was especially the last 2 episodes. That's what really kind of started, getting more interesting story wise. Because the first episode was okay. Episode 2, I didn't like that much. Episode 3, I didn't really care for that one either. But like I said, episodes 5 and 6, I really liked. And if the show would have been more like those 2 episodes, then I would give the show a higher rating. So overall, I would probably have to give this show a 6 out of 10, because the show didn't have a proper focus, because there were times when it didn't feel like it was the Obi-Wan show. It felt like there were times when it felt like he was more of a side character. But the last 2 episodes, gave, a stronger focus on Obi-Wan, and it made the show that much better, especially with the conflict between him and Vader. To me, that's what made the show interesting. And I just don't understand how the writers made the mistake of not focusing on Vader and Obi-Wan. If it would have been just based on those 2, if that would have been the main focus, I would have easily have given this show a 9 out of 10. Easy. Or maybe even higher. But because of the bad writing and bad decisions that were made on this show, I can only give this show a 6 out of 10 at best. So that's all I got to say about that.